think we'll get started because we've got quite a lot of people now joining. So welcome to the Helix webinar series. Today's session is on improved mean time to resolution with automatic anomaly detection. Today's session is going to be run by Amal, our Principal Product Manager, and John Ahern, our Principal Solutions Marketing Manager. Before we get started, just a reminder for those that have or haven't used Zoom before, we have the Q&A section at the bottom. Any questions during this presentation and webinar, please drop them in there. We do have a set of panelists that will answer those questions, and we will do a recap at the end. So without further ado, John, I'm going to hand over to you for your initial introduction to this webinar.
That's great. Thanks, Samantha, and really excited to be on this webinar today, and really excited to have with me Anal Rastogi. Do you want to say hello to everyone, Anal?
Hello, everyone. Hello, everyone.
Yeah. So listen, it's great to have a subject matter expert on with me today when we're talking about automatic anomaly detection. So as Samantha mentioned, we love it when there's lots of interaction, lots of questions. So please do use that chat function or the Q&A function. We'll address those questions as we move through it, and then we might save some questions towards the end of the session as well today. So Anal, will you flick on to the next slide? And just want to flag, so this is just a legal notice that we put up at the start of all our kind of customer facing webinars. Give you a couple of seconds to have a look down through that before I take us through today's agenda. Okay, and for today's agenda, what we're going to look at is I'm going to give you a bit of an introduction into some of the challenges or some of the situations that we see our customers that they're faced with. So a bit of context setting right up front when it comes to AI ops, when it comes to observability, and maybe how our customers are dealing with those particular issues. Then we're then going to have a look at our BMC Helix service ops and observability. And just for those who are maybe unaware, service ops is the term that we use when we're talking about our service operations and our IT operations world. And when you merge them both together, we use the term service ops. So we'll be covering that today as well, a little bit of detail on that. And then we're going to get a really, really cool demo on automatic anomaly detection. This is probably going to be, I guess, the highlight, I think, of today's webinar, where we get to see anomaly detection, or automatic anomaly detection in action. And we get to see kind of AI ops driving that in the background as well. And then, as I mentioned, at the end, we'll finish up with a Q&A section. So keep the questions coming, and we'll get to them towards the end of today's session. So can we go on to the next slide? Yeah, maybe onto the next slide. So just, I guess, to set a bit of context, I think if you could jump on back. Yeah, that's it. When we think about today's customer environment and what different challenges that our customers are faced, what a lot of end users see, right, is the front end of maybe an application. But what they don't fully gather is sitting behind that application is a whole host of different things that drives a whole series of complexity for an IT admin to manage. And the one thing around that is there's more back-end processes that we need to manage, and the scale of IT is just growing year on year. On the slide here today, we see things like data, applications, and infrastructure, and we see a timeline moving from 2005 across to 2023. It's only going one way. Everything is growing, everything is getting larger, and there's a heck of a lot of complexity that's sitting behind all of these particular environments. And if you think of complexity, it gets tougher when you've got a customer who might be running like maybe a traditional on-prem type environment, but now they've started moving towards a cloud environment, or they've got a public cloud, a private cloud. They're running hybrid cloud environments, virtualized environments. They're merging all these worlds into one overall IT ecosystem. And that remains a massive challenge for our customers because it takes a lot of kind of resources to manage all these disparate environments, a lot of overhead, a lot of tools, a lot of different IT tools to manage all of them. You might find yourself in a situation where you've got shadow IT. So, you're trying to manage resources across all of these platforms, all of these different IT silos, and that can be kind of quite difficult. I remember in a previous life, I was speaking to an IT administrator, and he ran an audit on his his IT environment, and it came back an audit to figure out how many virtual machines or VMs that he was running. And it turns out his company was running thousands of more VMs than he actually was aware of, than they thought of, you know. So visibility, a deep visibility across all the different infrastructure environments, deep visibility across applications, and managing data volumes are huge issues, I guess, across the board. So that, you know, in some ways, that's where BMC Helix kind of comes in, and where we kind of are able to add a lot of value to our customers. Because when an IT team is dealing with like an ever increasing growing list of applications and different services, and when your data sources are coming from so many different locations, what the BMC Helix platform does, it allows you to ingest all of those into one single source and try and make sense of it all. So that's really, really, really a strong part of our overall solution. Do you want to flick on to the next slide, Amal? And when I think of this one, right, you know, I mentioned a while ago about some of the challenges. I mentioned a while ago about the things like the lack of visibility, but like not alone have you got a lack of visibility, but you got a huge challenge, I guess, with managing multiple different vendors, multiple different tools, licensing management, capacity management, security, availability, loads and loads of different kind of challenges around that. And ultimately, when something kind of goes wrong, what you're trying to do then is fire up all these different tools, all these different I guess monitoring applications to try and figure out what's going on. You know, and one of the things that we're trying to help people with is to shorten their mean time to resolution, you know, to remove all these different silos that customers are faced with, and basically to help people with the ever-changing kind of demands that they're faced with. But that's cross domain. So if you want to be able to ingest data across all of your topology, you know, you need to be able to map it and see it. We've got really, really strong dynamic service models that we can provide to our customers as well. So that helps you gain visibility across your entire ecosystem, and they're updated in real time as well. So that's a massive thing that we can provide. And then correlation. So you're going to get correlation when it comes to incidents or alerts across your environment, and being able to pull all those into a consolidated view, which I know we're going to talk about in a little bit more detail, is really powerful. But all your typical AI ops things then, like pattern recognition for detecting incidents, you're gaining leading indicators for, you know, root cause, and really what you're trying to figure out is, you know, how are we kind of going to get there, you know. But so behind all of that, like we've got a solution. It's our BMC Helix operations solution, and really what that is, it's an open platform that can ingest metrics, logs, events, and they can be pulled in from hundreds of sources. So really what you can do around that then is help you with things like root cause isolation. You can implement remediation, intelligent automation, and you know, that's really kind of the solution that sits behind some of the situations that I outlined there. So I just wanted to provide a little bit of context setting about some of the challenges that our customers are faced with, and a little bit about how we help you understand like your system's health, maybe the impact of a particular service if it goes down, and also help you with future risk planning as well. So we can help you with that as well. So if you're an IT exec, you know, an IT admin, you know, if your responsibility is for operations or for the services side of the business, really what we're able to provide you with is a solution that can help you to reduce your overall toll, I guess, across the business. So Malal, I just wanted to set that bit of context for people today. And I guess now we get into the really, really exciting part of the webinar. Do you want to flick on to the next slide and start taking people through the service ops and observability story?
Sure, John. First of all, thanks for setting up the context and explaining about the data complexity and this data explosion. So I'm going to talk about more in terms of how we solve those data complexity, and one of the area in that data complexity is to identify the key challenges related to getting an alert around the situations or getting an alert around the problems that's occurred during the peak hour. So let's start, to introduce first of all about the platform, which John resonated. So as John was talking about, there is a huge data explosion, right? there are not only just one tool, there are many tools are currently being used in the IT operations, but those tools are running basically in silos, right? So what we provide as a solution, right? We bring all of these data in just, one platform, where we ingest, not only the metrics or attributes from all other third parties, we also ingest the topologies from those third parties. We also have our own, in-depth monitoring available, which can also be used for, collecting the data. So as you see on this particular, section on the left-hand side, you see, the data complexity is there in terms of topologies, event, traces, metrics, logs, incident, changes, defects, knowledge articles, all these things. But how we solve these problems for our customers is basically we use the artificial intelligence and the machine learning algorithms to make sense out of the data. And when we says make sense out of the data, we really simplify the data readabilities to our customer by correlating the events or the data together, and then we provide some meaningful insight around the data. Along with that, we also use the generative AI, where we actually provide a very valuable insights about the event or the situations where users can see the actions or the recommendation based on the previous or the past historical data, right? And we basically recommend to the users what actions that can be performed whenever there is any incident occurred. Now, there are two things that I would like to also cover. One is the technical value chain, and one is the business value chain. So when we talk about the technical value chain, so those are the persons, from the persona perspective, are highly influencing to buy for the buyer decision. And as you see, for both of them, we have these platform level offering where somebody sitting at the CIO level can look at the Helix dashboard to go more inside it, but the technical value chain can look at into always the service blueprint, the AI foundation, and all these things. So this is how we bring together all this complexity, how we solve this data complexity for our both technical value chain and the business value chain. For this particular discussion, I wanted to focus mainly around the causal AI, where I'm going to discuss more on the automatic anomaly detection. So we now enable in our system the built-in intelligence to do the baselining around the threshold, so that whenever there is any peak incident happen, right? Wherever there is a peak in the system, so the user should basically alerted, they should be first to know, and then they should be first to act. And together with the generative AI, we provide a lot of contextual informations so that it becomes our user base too easy in terms of troubleshooting those problems. Nothing from the cloud admin perspective, when the environment is so dynamic. So users, do not know at what particular time, my threshold is going to be up, right? Or at what particular time my resources are underutilized. So with this particular feature, we enables our users to basically, dynamically determine the thresholds for states and performance metrics, so that at the time of peak, they get an alert. They don't need to, figure it out at their own by doing some manual jobs, to identify, hey, what time my peak is and how this will basically, impact my services. Or, if my resources are underutilized because there is no peak, right? So with this dynamic threshold in place, user have the choice now to identify what's going wrong at what particular of time in this kind of dynamic environment nature. However, there are also choices for the users where they can control the behavior of this dynamic and the static threshold. So as I will move forward in my demo section, I will show you how these behavioral controls can be placed to put some control around the dynamic and static threshold. Moving on to the next section of this, I will start from the dynamic thresholding. So as compared to previous releases, in operation management, when users wanted to get an alert, right? So what user needs to do is user needs to set an static threshold for every matrix where they wanted to get an alarm, and then based on that alarm they wanted to refine that alarm for a more robust event. But with this release, what we have introduced is in the alarm policy is the matrix violates the metric value violates the baseline. So there is no need for any users to set any threshold or something like that. And instead of that, what they can tell that, hey, if there is a baseline for deviation for almost like 10 to 15 minutes, then I wanted to generate an warning alarm for myself. And if the time lapses, then you close this event also. So now with this, at least I have a flexibility in the system that I can no longer need to do an static thresholding. Instead of let the system decide and tell me what time the system is running into the peak or under resource utilization. So this helps users to actually reduce the cost or improvise the service performance. Moving on to the next section of this discussion, we also enable the automatic anomaly detections. Now this is a section where users can actually in one go enable that if they are collecting all the metrics or whatever metrics which are falling into the category of rate or percentage or states attributes, those attributes are going to be automatically baseline. Now as previously you were seeing those dynamic thresholding where still I have to go and configure the dynamic threshold for each and individual attributes. Now here I have more flexibilities where I can tell my system, hey, I don't know what are the percentage metrics or what are the states attributes. You just do the baselining for the metrics that I am collecting. So with these options, users will be able to the system will be able to do the automatic baselining, and then whenever there is a baseline deviated based on the standard deviation of like 1 2 3 within the 10 minutes or 20 minutes, whatever the time frame it is set here. So at that time it will start raising the alarms, it will start raising the warning alarm for around those rate percentage or state attributes. So in this way, this is like a one-click options for the users instead of setting up those 1,000 attributes in the alarm policy and then identifying, setting up manual threshold or setting up dynamic threshold. This option basically give more flexibilities where if a user is also named user, then they can basically set the things from here. Going to the next section, which is identifying the load with the power of machine learning. So in the background, we use the machine learning algorithms, which basically helps to identify when the baseline is enabled around the states and performance metrics. It's basically enables users to identify what is my lower band and what is my upper band. What does this mean? That at what particular time my resource were underutilized and what particular of time my resource is overutilized. And whenever there is a questions about my resources are overutilized, that means the services which are dependent on those infrastructures may basically cause a degradation into the service, and those services can be mission business critical applications or services. right? So at that particular of time, if the peak continues to be, let's say, 10 minutes or 20 minutes, depending upon settings, global settings. So that means now I have to look at the trend, and then I have to decide whether I need to basically, take out some resources, or whether I need to basically, increase my resources so that my services are, running successfully without any problem. So that's the power, you see with the automatic anomaly baseline. Uh, and together, the automatic anomaly detection as well as the generative AI, we solve much bigger problem here, which is basically, you have maybe millions of, metrics streaming to your system, and then millions of metrics are getting, baseline. But, to provide a clear-cut picture using the generative AI, we solve much bigger problem of this data complexity, where we provide the precise information that what is the root cause, what is the root cause of the situations, and what particular of time, the bandwidth utilization. So something like that, happens. So as you see, this particular situation is created because of, there is a baseline deviation happen, and automatic anomaly basically help the generative AI to provide, very contextual information to take certain action. And as you see in this screenshot, there are a bunch of, uh, attributes that are dependent upon this total number of processes, as you're seeing here. So that means there is something around this where I have to go and figure it out on this particular host, whether I need to increase my CPU count, whether I need to, increase my memory usage. So this gives, very precise informations in terms of providing more contextual information. This also helps, to avoid any kind of firefighting whenever if there are silos, in terms of, hey, this is not my issues, this is your issues, and then, if you put it on some other teams and things like that. So it's really helps because now you have very clear picture that which host belongs to which team. You can figure it out from the backend, and then you can assign this issue to a particular team to take action. So that's basically, concluded my slide. In my next sections, I'm going to talk about, I'm going to show the demonstration of this. So just to begin with, I will start now the demo. I hope you can see my screen.
Yeah, we're good. Yeah, we got you.
All right. So what I'm going to start demonstrating is I'm going to start with, first of all, the dynamic baseline. So I'm going to be inside the alarm policy for that, and I'm going to create an alarm policy here. So I'm going to give some random name here for this demonstration purpose. And what I am going to do here is I'm going for an performance metrics here. So if I will go here, I will go for the CPU, and I will look for, let's say, CPU utilization or CPU utilization per virtual CPU, and I will apply this. Now here, if you see here, this I have option here which says I can set the static threshold, and otherwise I can, also say that what is the dynamic baseline that I wanted to do. I wanted to run the dynamic thresholding around this matrix for 15 minutes, as I was showing you in the screen. So then I can tell that generate the, warning alarm, and close or do not close event, something like that I can set. So here now you see I can set, multiple matrices here, but still it's a point of like that, I have to set multiple metrics once again, right? This particular feature helps when you basically wanted to do the baselining around, few of these metrics that you're seeing here, that you basically figure it out. But if you wanted to, do the baselining for, let's say, millions of metrics, then this particular section doesn't make sense, right? So what you can do here is you can come out from this, and then we have an also option called auto anomalies under the configuration. So once you go here, you see three options. One is, again, I have enabled this in my environment, but by default, this option is disabled. So when this option, you enable it, what you're telling this basically, as you read it here, that it is enabling the auto anomaly generation for all the rate percentage and states attribute. And then I can also tell that, depending upon the sampling, about the data accuracy, that let's say if I wanted to go with basically 1 sigma deviation, or I wanted to go 2 sigma deviation, or I wanted to go 3 sigma deviation. And then I can also tell that within this 10 minutes, if my anomaly continues to be deviating, then just generate an alarm for me. So I can control this auto anomaly in this particular screen. If I will set anything inside my alarm policies will always take precedence over this global settings. So that means you will be seeing, very specific metrics getting baseline, or if you have any kind of, static thresholding around the those metrics, so those will take precedence over this global settings. Now, going into the event sections, there are a couple of events which are generated, from this anomaly. Let me just bring some events here. Looks like something happened here now. So I will move on to the other section, which is basically important for from the CIO's perspective, where most of the CIOs will be interested to know how the anomalies is basically spread over the services, right? So this one is in particular important, where I can go and see how many services are there, okay, and how many anomalies are this is actually by just 1 minute. Let me quickly jump into this Linux portal and bring my dashboard section again, just to give you some precise information about the overall anomalies overview. So now, as you see here, that there are services, all the services which are my business critical services. Now here, I will be looking into more that, like, how many anomalies are there, and how many, univariates anomalies are there, and how many events are there, right? So, and most importantly, how many anomalies are taken care, and how many anomalies are still open, that's required, certain kind of fixes. So this is where actually, most of the CIs will be looking into. Now, if I wanted to go, to a very specific service from this dashboard, I can select, from the core banking. I am interested into core banking because this is really, very critical applications for me, especially, from the banking perspective. Now here, what it tells you, what's the messaging it gives you, that there are minor anomalies, but it gives you kind of like overall picture that how the anomalies are spread, and what are the devices that are part of those anomalies. So as you see, there are devices, top 5 devices which are part of this core banking service infrastructure. Now here I can see, how many again anomalies were there, and how many closed and open. So as you can see, this thin orange line is showing you the open univariates anomalies. Now, if I will click here, I can again go from here and navigate to other pages to see what is the problem here. But underneath this, it also gives you a nice health score timeline for core banking. So the blue one lines that you're seeing here is basically when at what particular time the anomaly is detected, right? And you can basically see the trend of these from these dashboard. Importantly, when you see these red dotted lines, right? So you see the complete detail about, what was happened at that particular time, right? So you can see all of this, that what is the deviation happened. So you can see all of these events here on this particular section. And then you can also see, the devices which are basically part of these core banking. So from here, you can actually see, what kind of events were generated and on what machines, right? So I can, from here again, I can go and I can investigate from this device, from this dashboard. Let it come. Now I am looking at a very specific device which was part of my core banking service. So now from here I can see what kind of anomalies are generated and what kind of trends, right? So on this machine, on this particular machine, as I continuously going and analyzing my data, I can actually see what kind of events are getting generated here. So like that, you basically can from here itself, see the spread of those anomalies, and you can see the trend, and based on that trend, you can decide what exactly, you wanted to do around those anomalies, and what kind of, future action that you wanted to take. Uh, This concludes my second part of the demo, which was around the dashboard. Now I will move on to the other part, which is basically around the services monitoring. So once the anomalies are detected and it becomes a part of the situation, now from here, actually, I can go into the individual sections here, and then I can, see how it's impacted, how anomalies are impacting my overall, service health. Now from here, I can again, all of these events are closed currently, but I can see the performance data here if it is generating, and from here, actually, I can see, at what particular time there was the anomaly, right? So this helps me to do some trend analysis, especially if you will see that, there was an alarm opened at 17:05 at so and so time where the baseline was, violated. So I can, from here in this trend graph, I can see all this data. This really helps, in my opinion, to give you the performance related, information. And then you can also identify from this trend what is your peak, right? So you can actually decide at what particular of time, the anomaly was generated depending upon your lower band or depending upon your upper band, right? So if it is lower band, then definitely, my resources are underutilized. And then I can basically take a decisions to, take out some of my cloud infrastructure so that I can, save some money. And if my performance is basically still crossing the upper band, then that means I need to basically put more resources here so that I can improvise the performance of my service. This uh, this in particular also helps. Just a minute, I have one open option here. Yeah. So this this helps me to identify which service is going to be impacted. Now if I will I will take another example here where I wanted to show a specific to let me see if I have any generative AI event. uh, So as you see here that, as I was also talking about the generative AI, as you see, there is a service modeling done, and in this service modeling, there is one particular node which is affecting others node also because of the situation. So you see that, it's basically kind of like, isolate all the information, and then with this information, I can take, more I can drive the more insight analytics that, hey, I wanted to take certain action, then on what particular host I have to take the action, right? So it gives you that kind of relationship through the generative AI, where I can see very clearly, which host is getting the impact because of one of the anomaly is identified in the system. So this is again, better together story. This kind of like, generative AI and anomaly detections makes it really helpful in terms of reducing the mean time to repair. And then, the others, the people in the team basically can focus on doing the more innovative job rather than, doing the indulging into the firefighting of resolving the issues. So this concludes my today's demo. I will switch to the slide mode now.
Thanks, Amal. That was really, really cool to see it in use and in practice. I think it brings it to life all the time when you actually see it being used. So that was really, really cool. Well, I guess we've just got a couple of concluding slides before we jump on to our Q&A section here today. But like, if it's okay with you, Amal, I might just summarize, what we just saw today. So, I mean, what we spoke about and what we saw in today's demonstration, we talked about like proactively alerting with intelligence in place. I think we clearly saw that when we started looking at things like the thresholding and how we kind of set that in place. So that was really, really cool to see that. Improving mean time to resolution, it's the measure of success to any successful IT admin. The faster you can fix things makes us all more successful in our roles,
Yeah.
So I think that really helps us to be successful. So automatic anomaly detection, discovering anomalous behavior, outliers in your environment, that's all, being able to identify is going to help you get to the bottom of your issue quicker. And then the lower total cost of ownership for deployment and maintenance. Well, ultimately, if you're automating anomaly detection, right, in the long term, that's going to cost you that's going to actually provide you with more benefits because, your business won't be experiencing as much downtime and be offline as much, so I just wanted to summarize briefly in that one. And but we also have like a lot going on with our BMC Helix platform in itself. So we touched on service ops earlier, but I mean, in terms of our alerting, we've got really powerful alerting solutions that can, generate actionable insights for you. We've got real-time service monitoring there as well. Intelligent automation. We've got loads and loads of tools basically that can provide you insights to any potential kind of service outages that you may be experiencing. So it's a great platform, great solution. I encourage you to have a look at it. We have a look at the last slide. So this is just the last slide before we jump on to some questions. And what you saw today and what we've actually got available for customers is a free AI Ops guided demo. So on our bmc.com platform, you could navigate towards a 14-day AI Ops guided demo. And within that, right, there's a whole host of different kind of use cases. So we spoke about service ops, which is merging the service and the IT operations worlds together. So you'll see like things within that free AI Ops guided demo. You'll see that in action. You'll see things like dynamic service modeling. You'll see event noise reduction, root cause isolation, multi-source observability. But you'll also see things like continuous optimization. So what if business service simulation, business service views, and we've also got use cases around HR, service management, discovery, and then things like ITSM, which is on our service side. You'll see things like auto reply to inbound emails. So just kind of covering that off in there as well. So try it out, log in, sign up for it. You have 14 days to play with it. And like in today's demo from Amal, when you see it, it's really, really powerful. So go in there and start using it. Yeah, I think correct me if I'm wrong here, Amal, but they can extend that as well, can't they? So if post the 14 days they need more time, people can get more time as well.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, reach out to your account managers or reach out to John. We will basically help you to extend the time period for the trial.
Yeah. Yeah, we can do that. We've done it for customers in the past. But also, right, we've got a great BMC community site. So I encourage you to log on to that as well. Get involved, start looking at what some of the other BMC customers are talking about in there. And you kind of get to learn from your peers and ask kind of questions from your peers within the community site. So that's really powerful there as well. And then finally, there's always the option to pick up a phone and talk to us, right? So we've got multiple different people at the end of the line that can take you through this solution. So only too happy to help. But, okay. Will we read some questions? Do you want to kick on to that slide? So just to finish up, we did get some questions, which was fantastic. So as we were moving down through today's presentation, I think, Amal, one of the questions we got was around when you did the section on thresholds. We got a question here around when you're setting thresholds. For reaching thresholds on a Friday evening versus what's happening on a Monday morning, considering that businesses don't operate on weekends. I think what they're trying to get to here, that how does thresholding work from a timeline point of view, from my point of view, it's always on, isn't it? Like these are always learning, these thresholds are always set, but interested to hear what your take on that one.
Yeah, so as you know, the system learn more and more. It basically it's basically refine its learning. So let's say, if there is a weekend, right, and in that weekend there's no activity happening. So the next weekend, again, if the same behavior exists, that means it will identify automatically that during these days there is no activity is going to be performed. But out of sudden, if there are some, activities that's deviating the baseline, that means, as an owner of the application or as an owner of the infrastructure, I should basically be looking into that why, there is suddenly peak happen on the weekend, whether, there is any kind of like hack in the system, or if there is any kind of, problem that happen to the services. So I think the more data it is ingested into the system, the more learning happen over the period of time. It becomes more smarter. The system become more smarter during that time to identify, whether it's a weekend or whether it's a weekdays. So it
Yeah, and
takes
more.
little time
Yeah.
basically.
Yeah, and more accurate, I guess. So the more you feed it, the more accurate it gets. But it'll also be available, I guess, to whatever schedule your business works like. So whatever makes sense for your business. Yeah, that's cool. We got a question then around performance metrics. So I think someone picked up on this when you were talking through the performance metrics. The question was like, what does it mean from, are they statistical metrics like megabytes and gigabytes and all that type of stuff? So what sort of performance metrics are we referring to in this one?
Yeah. So those are like, the utilization in terms of percentage, and the states metrics where you get, the disk space, for example, in megabyte and gigabyte. So all sorts of these things. What it's not doing is currently, if let's say if the service status is up or down, right? So we are still working on those things to identify how we can, do the baselining, where we see the status as an kind of like, returning around the attributes like up and down. This is where actually we are still, breaking our head. But apart from those kind of attributes, we are almost covering all the attributes, to do the baselining.
Yeah, okay, that makes sense. Yeah. Okay, and then look, we got another question here, which was around dashboards. So I think we had a look at dashboards where you were showing kind of the univariate anomalies by device. I think that was part of your dashboard demo there, But when it comes to dashboards and customization or the different kind of views, can you tell us a little bit on that, how customers can set up and create their dashboards?
Oh, I think you have you have asked the right question, and for the same reason, I have invited John Brent, also along with me as a part of panelists. So, would you like to take that question, John?
As a subject matter expert, John.
So,
here we go.
So, if you noticed the dashboards that Amal displayed, we had an overview dashboard. It kind of shows you the overview of all the anomalies, and then it showed you it basically kind of narrows it down to a service. So with AI ops, you're kind of looking at things as a service, not as like a standalone server, right? So you want to know how it's impacting your business. So that dashboard kind of shows how are anomalies, impacting particular service, critical service for your business. So where's that data come from? Well, most of the data is events, right? So events go into Elasticsearch and vHump. So with Grafana, you have a different data sources, and we have different data lake that with industry standard databases which are best to store that type of data. Like in TSOM, we stored everything in a relational database, right? It would be so we can scale better. We store it in whatever makes the most sense and what scales the best for that particular type of data. For instance, metrics goes into Victoria metrics. Events go into Elasticsearch, and then ITSM or service management goes into a relational database. And most of the screens you saw were event queries, because the anomalies obviously are generating an event, and those events have different slots. So if that was generated on a particular server that's associated with a particular service, that would be in that slot. So that's you can put together queries to show the data kind of like you want. And then he also showed you the anomalies. We're on the graphs, on the line graphs. You can overlay it with anomalies, so you can say, hey, I want to see at this point in time what events I had, or what situations, which is a type of event, have, and it overlays that on there. And then you can actually take the contents of that event, and when you mouse over, it'll show you what happened at that time. So you can start kind of correlate things. And also changes too. You can do the same thing with changes. You can do anomaly with change query service management, see what changes were done in that timeline. And then when you mouse over, you can say, okay, well, I had no anomalies before I introduced this change, but after then, my anomaly counts spiked, right? So you can go, well, let me go look at that change and see if possibly that whatever change that was, affected this my service. But that's basically where all the data is. It's in these 3 or 4 dashboards that we created that will soon make it to the product as a standard part of the product. You by looking at you can go in there and edit the different panels and see how the data is gathered. And if you want to you can always copy those and make your own custom dashboards. That usually gives you a good start.
Dashboards are always so powerful, John, aren't they? Like, customers will use them in so many kind of different ways. So it's good to see we've got that level of flexibility, I guess, within them here. That's pretty cool. Okay, we got a couple of more questions. So this is great, because I love when we get all these kind of questions. So there's a question here about, I got more sessions on the demo. So I guess this is a real validation, Amal, about what they saw, right? They want to kind of see more kind of demos. Do we have any prepackaged online demos that people can consume? Obviously, we know the AIOps guided demo they can log into, but anything on maybe YouTube or something like that?
So we have not yet, created a guided demo around this. We are still working on it. But if there is any kind of need, you can reach out to me. We can give it a guided demo to you. I can work out with my team to provide this guided demo to you. But definitely we will be releasing the guided demo. There is one particular feature which I was talking about in general, the global configuration. That feature is still marked as feature flag. It's not yet available publicly. So in case, if you wanted to get engaged with myself or with John, then reach out to us. We will enable those features in the customer specific tenant, and then so that you can play around with that. And then once this feature is available as a public feature, then there will be definitely, the videos around it, and then there will be definitely, guided demos around it will be available. We are thinking of doing this as a part of 24.2.
Yeah. Okay. So like ultimately what we'll do is make sure that if you need to view it and trial it and see it, we'll open this up. Yeah, absolutely.
Right.
Okay, so there was two other kind of questions I wanted to cover before we close up. One is a great question around kind of pricing and licensing, I guess, for this. So could you cover that one for us, and how does it work?
So we are still working on it. As I said, this feature is currently, feature flag. So if you need this feature to try, you can basically come back to us. But from the licensing perspective, if you we are still working on it, and definitely, we will provide this information later on.
Okay, good. Yeah, so stand by for more, I guess, on that one.
Yeah.
Okay, and then look, we got questions around kind of who are our clients in terms of BNC. Yeah, speak to us about that, because we've got plenty of reference customers that we can share with you as well. We did get a question: does your tool perform predictive analysis? So any thoughts on that particular one?
So yes, we do the predictive analysis also. Yes, so yeah, the feature is there for doing the predictive analysis as well.
Yeah,
And I think I have
actually,
shown you this slide. If you will allow me to again go back to my slide. The So yeah, I mean this is covered as a part of the platform offering.
yeah, absolutely. And I was just going to say there, I've got some hyperlinks here. I was just trying to find them. We can share those hyperlinks after as well, where it delves into our predictive analysis capability, so people can learn
Right.
more from that after this one. So we've got
Right.
that. Yeah,
Right.
cool. Well, I think that's it. I can't find any other questions that we haven't covered from anyone, but as usual, right, we've got lots and lots of options for you to kind of engage with us. So please feel free to reach out to all of us after this session. I think I'm gonna, before we close up, I'm just gonna hand you over to Samantha, who's going to close out today's session. But thanks all for co-hosting this with me today, and thanks everyone for attending. So over to you, Samantha.
Thank you, John. So it was just a reminder. I know a few people in the chat have asked about the recording. This will get sent out. All of the webinar schedule that we run, which is across all of the business units of BMC, is actually listed on the community page. Don't worry about me sharing those in the chat today. I will be sending a follow-up email with this recording, which is already being uploaded today to YouTube. And then obviously the presentation slides and any other content that may be useful. So I want to say thank you again to our hosts. Thank you for all the questions that have come through. We will be doing a lot more of these type of webinars next year. We're starting to build the content, so please do keep an eye on the webinar page. And also, if you want to follow me on LinkedIn, I do also post all of these events on LinkedIn and run a regular newsletter. So thank you very much, everyone, and have a good day. And thanks for our panel as well.
That's great. Thanks, Samantha. Cheers, everyone.
Thank you.
Take care.